Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Sketchy Ideas, the Point Counterpoint live video podcast where we have no technical issues ever between myself, Brad James, and
myself, Michael Rampola,
where we discuss business strategies, concepts, tactics, dealing with leadership, human resources, you name it, we talk about it. Both Michael and I come from a variety of backgrounds. We've done a lot of different things, and we're here to share what we've learned, as well as bring on some guests and show you how we implement what we've learned. So with that, today, we actually put out a request, and we got something really, really cool back from some of you viewers. And so I'm going to hand it off to Michael, and then we're going to dive right into this.
Awesome. So I want to give a shout out to the Idea Collective, and specifically Brad Herda, Chief CEO, coach, chief business supporter at Vision Forward. And Brad put out a really great idea when we said, hey, what is hard to visualize? What's a concept that you know in words, but you haven't really seen well put onto a whiteboard, for example? And let me give you what he said. He said, the generational shift in the workplace, in buying habits, and in learning methods, and the urgency of certain industries to recognize it. I'm going to do that again because there's a lot to unpack. So there's a generational shift. It's happening in three different domains. It's happening in the workplace. The shift is happening in buying habits, and the shift is happening in learning methods. And Brad's premise is that some industries don't have enough urgency to recognize that shift, and I'm guessing do something about it. So Brad Herda, thank you. Brad, James and I are excited to dig into this because I think there's a lot for us to unpack and to uncover. So Brad, what are your first thoughts?
So, buying, hiring, and learning. Did I catch all those?
Perfect. Generational shifts in those domains, and what does it mean, and what should we be doing about it?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think for us, we should probably start with hiring and go from there, because I bet you that that's probably one of the more important things that everybody's dealing with right now, especially with college graduates coming out, trying to figure out remote working, all of that good stuff. So this sounds pretty important to me. What do you think?
I like it. Let's go with it.
All right. So let's do that. So for all of my fellow parental ages, so those who are around my parents' age, this is always a fun conversation to have. I don't know if you've had this conversation ever with your parents, but the conversation consistently always goes something like this. We have to hire millennials because millennials are on the job market. Millennials have some challenges when we hire them. And the number one thing is they are quote unquote lazy.
Or entitled, depending.
Well, whatever your definition of lazy is, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is a good one. All right, let's do this thing. So,
all right. Now, so what I'm hearing you say is that's typically spoken by the boomer about the millennial. Am I about right so far? I'm
all right, boomer.
Force mapping this. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Hey,
all right.
If anything, the millennials are clever in their phrasing.
They are. They know how to diffuse an argument. All right. So traditionally, generations are defined as, right, the boomers, the Gen X, millennials, and right now, depending, I'm just going to use Z as the current catch-all. I'm just sidebar, fascinating thing. When I was born in a different generation than I'm apparently currently defined in right now, which tells me that generational definitions are retrospective.
Wait, what? So did you like pull a Back to the Future thing, or
no?
What's going on here?
My understanding is that those born to the boomers were Gen X, but now millennials are defined as starting in 1980, and therefore now I am technically a millennial.
Hey, welcome to the club.
I guess my sister was born in 83, so we're a few years apart. I don't feel like we're a millennial. I don't know if I even feel like we're Gen X. I feel like all of this, well, anyway, I think all this is very arbitrary, but I've definitely found support for my belief that my generation changed underneath me, and nobody consulted me about it. Regardless, right? So there are these different generations. generally defined by when you were born. And it sounds like we've got some perceptions that kind of come with these stereotypes, right?
Yeah, very much so.
So the hiring manager says the people I need to hire them because they're the only people still working, but I don't want to hire them because I believe they are insert list of negative stereotypes here. Is that about right?
Yeah, totally.
All right. So that's this person looking at this person and saying, I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. So, but now what does that mean? I can't write them off because I need them, it sounds like. Is that right?
I mean, let's put it this way. Technically, millennials are the technical people these days, right? They're the computer proficient, computer literate, computer, go do my social media.
Got it. Yep.
Come help me fix my computer when something goes wrong, right?
I like it. Okay. So the challenge now is we've got shifts in the hiring practice. So how do I best hire the people that it sounds like that I don't like. How do I hire people I don't like?
That's really, really hard.
How do I sell people? How do I sell the people I don't like? How do I teach people I don't like?
We first have to understand why there is a dislike.
Excellent. So why don't I like those darn millennials? Very nice. Why don't I like them? All right, I'm gonna pull Abraham Lincoln in for a second, who said maybe incorrectly attributed, but it always goes to Lincoln whenever I search for it. I do not like that man. I must get to know him better. Premise of that being my dislike for millennials doesn't come from my knowledge of them, but my lack of understanding.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what my favorite rule is? My favorite law: seek first to understand,
and then to be understood. Got it. So I don't understand them. Therefore, if I'm the hiring manager and I recognize my need for them, I'm going to need to get to know them. Okay, I like that. I like where we're going with this. Now the question is, what is it about? Oh man, this is tricky because now does the millennial want to get to know the boomer? Maybe that's another question.
I mean, I'm sure they have their preconceived notions as well. This is why when hiring millennials, they talk about not necessarily rewards or hiring based on traditional benefit packages, but on other benefit packages, right? Like vacation time or freedom of work or impact of work or things that don't necessarily matter to the boomer.
Oh, boomers don't like vacation time?
In terms of the workplace, they don't recognize that as a significant benefit.
Interesting. Boomers have also been working longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I've been working longer and I don't see the value of vacation because why? I don't take it, I don't need it, I don't want it, or I just expect it to be there.
That's a great question, my friend.
Because when I say it that way, when I'm trying to tell me that boomers don't like taking vacation, I don't know anybody that's going to say no to all my vacation away, right?
It depends, right? I know a bunch of people who don't use them either way. I think it's a nice to have. It's nice to know that it's there for almost everybody out there, but it's a matter of value of perception, right? So vacation time to somebody who's older is not nearly as valuable as cash in the bank because I'm planning for retirement.
I'll take that.
I bought my house. I'm trying to pay off my mortgage. I'm trying to take care of my car bills. Hey, my son or daughter now is going to college. So cash in the bank is worth more to me than would a vacation be or vacation time.
Okay, so maybe we value different things.
I think value systems are really the big part between all of us. I mean, if we were to take your quadrant and just break out values, I think that might actually help a lot of people.
Sure. Okay.
As I think we're dealing with like 3 different parameters that we're diving into, but I totally think that it could be useful. We've got, hey,
potentially. So let me try one other thing.
I don't know if you saw this. We have audience interaction today. We do. So Brad Herda.
That's my guy.
Said,
all right.
Challenge the power, and they've earned it already. I think, Brad, correct us if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, but are you saying that millennials like to challenge the power and they think they've earned it already, or are you talking about something else? And I would imagine, all right, speaking from being one of those millennials, the challenging of the power is not what I would say is the reason why. At least in my experience, when working with some of those older individuals, when I first got out of college, my thought process always has been, and this comes from me growing up and always trying to leave something better than when I found it, is I was constantly trying to find a better way to do things. And so I do know for a fact that often when I did that, the response I typically got from high school all the way till I began to do my own thing was, well, this is how it's been done. So,
classic.
Yes.
I'm gonna put that in my red flag. We call that a Tatwati, where I come from.
Tatwati, yes. Tatwati's back.
The return of the Tatwati. That's the way we've always done it. And there's my red flag to go with it. All right. So, okay, here's what's interesting. So I've earned the respect. I've challenged the power.
We got clarification from Brad also on, he said, boomers have earned the vacation.
Okay, I get it. They've earned it. So just that general idea about earning it. Whereas millennials are going to say we deserve it. How about that?
There you go.
Typically,
yeah, that's the entitlement portion that you brought up, right?
There we go. Very nice. I don't know where that leaves the extras, but we'll come back to them in a minute. All right, here's my. Let me. I am not a boomer, but I know some. My parents being some of them. Now, when they were the 1 or 2 generations below the people in positions of power, how did the people in the positions of power view them? Those long-haired, freaky people.
Same way.
Isn't
this funny how it all comes full circle?
So I'm gonna play my cards out. I'm gonna open my cards up a little bit. So a fantastic presentation. I won't be able to cite the source, but I'll try and get it to Brian for the show notes. At a SHRM conference a couple of years ago, Society for HR Management, gentleman got up and was giving a great presentation about the generational differences in the workforce. But his content looked really old. And then he revealed a little bit, and it literally looked like he had taken, if anybody knows what an overhead projector is, taken scans of an overhead projector and put them on slides. What he basically revealed was that is exactly what he had done. And he said, I've been giving this same presentation for maybe it was 30 or 40 years. And it's not about the generations, it's about the age. Because these perceptions between those that have been in the workforce longer, those that are coming into the workforce now, those perceptions, those gaps have always been there. We have enough of those gaps now because of the generations and the rapid acceleration of birth rates, quite frankly, that we can now have more generations in a shorter amount of time than we used to. And therefore, these differences are more stark and more obvious, and they've always been there. But we forget how it used to be when we were at the bottom, now that we're at the top, which feels very human to me. I don't know about you.
I mean, speaking from having literally managing people who are in their 60s, late 60s, and in their 70s, all the way down to kids who are in high school, right? Like you clearly understand there's growth and there's meaning behind work experience, right? And so but the concerns are always the same. They're back to something, right? Like it's back to, hey, I'm doing work for you, right? This isn't necessarily for me, but it is for you. It's just a matter of what for you means. So it's, and it's a matter of setting people up for success, right? So, which is why I wanted to approach this one first. And I think based on how this conversation is going, we're going to have to extend this into next week, but like talking about learning and then how that then translates also into selling to those customers that are of that younger generation too. So in my mind, I mean, this is, and Brad, thank you for engaging with us. I truly do believe that this whole concept of generational differences, right? Which if you search HBR, if you search Accenture, if you search any of those consulting firms, you're going to find a whole slew of stuff that says exactly what we're saying, where there's no such thing. Like generations exist because we feel the need as humans to categorize people, and categorizing people into groups helps us, one, in our brain, right? And two, helps us to define learning paths, as well as helps to alleviate inflexibility in an organization, right? So if you look at how organizations are built, that's how I've always approached it. It's not a generation, but leadership team, et cetera. And you and I were talking before this whole thing, like if you want to see a shift in how age gaps and generations have implemented and affected an industry, look at sports, right? We were talking about this. We were talking about how like baseball, if any of you who've read the book Moneyball or seen the movie's not as good as the book, but they cover the same idea where you've got Billy Beane who's running this team and he's trying to compete with the Yankees, but he's got literally a fifth of their salary. And he's going, we can't win that way. So he brings in this kid who's essentially just out of college, even though he's working for somebody else. But this kid has an economics degree from Yale and focuses on numbers and stats about building a team rather than trying to find the next Giambi or the next Isringhausen or, you know, those types of guys, and is looking as a mission overall. So when you go back to your drawing, like if you look at your boomers, your Xers, your millennials, and your Zers, they all come with different skill sets. Like based on the learning. And if your goal, and I think that's where you're going with your drawing, right? If your goal is X in the middle,
yep.
Like this is where you can determine how you're going to build your team, but it's about team. And it's about, hey, yes, we've got two things that we're dealing with. We're dealing with skill set to achieve the goal, right? And we're also dealing with mindset of all of these different groups of people. Because that mindset will contribute to how well they work together, right? And how well those skill sets merge. I don't know about you and how you guys at Spirity work, but we really try to focus on hiring using hungry, honeable, honorable as like our three like leading pieces when searching through people and trying to identify if they're a good fit.
I like it.
Because if we can at least identify, hey, they've got some basic skill sets to fill a role that's going to help us hit X. Now, the question is their mindset good enough and already in place? Because it's way easier to teach a skill than it is to help to shift that mindset, as you definitely know when dealing with some of the clients you guys deal with.
Exactly right.
And that's why you guys leverage technology, and you leverage tools, and you leverage systems, and you leverage coaching, and you leverage mentorship, and you leverage all of these different layers at Spirity to make it work in terms of your HR department being able to hit the target, dealing with age group, dealing with skill set, and dealing with mindset.
Totally agree. Exactly right. Okay. So I like this a lot. So I'm getting into, so I'm building out kind of these lists here about what the differences are. I originally wrote needs under values, and then I started thinking about motivations, and motivations and needs get pretty close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of a core tenet, which is money is not a motivator.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Money is not a motivator. We believe money is a motivator because we all need money, but it's not about the money.
No.
It's about what the money enables me to do. So the perception of, well, boomers don't care about X because they care about that other thing. When you boil it all down, what it really comes down to is probably a lot of the exact same kinds of things. And those differences are going to be more varied by person than they are by generation. So you're going to say, like, let's just say as a perception, let's say the millennials only care about the money. Let's just say that for a minute.
Wealth. Hey, it's health, wealth, and relationships. Remember?
And we're back
it's
to
still
sales.
The same three motivators.
You got it.
Same three. It doesn't matter.
They're back. They're back because that money enables me, right, to meet one of those other needs that I have.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So,
and it's just a matter of how you're layering those together.
Values are the same. It's how we express it. I might not say money. I might say money doesn't matter, but I can't actually say money doesn't matter. Otherwise, I'm not making any. I can't do the things I want to do. They're going to say millennials value experiences. Yeah, but guess what? Experiences are expensive. Right? Boomers care about family. And you're going to tell me millennials don't care about their family? No, it's just going to be how they express those different
relationships. Those are both relationships. Yep. Right. Or health.
You're going to say millennials need constant reinforcement. One of the biggest gaps in workplaces in general is that people don't get enough real-time feedback about their work. That's to a person, not to a generation.
Correct.
It's how it's these are more. So what I'm getting is, and to your point, Brad, the value of each of these is the value of, I'm going to even say, strategic diversity. So there's a value in intentionally building a team. So if that boomer wants to hire a millennial, good, because that millennial knows and has seen and can do things that you might not be able to, and their different perception is going to be a value. I don't care how old they are. I don't care what their haircut looks like. I care about, do they bring an intentional diversity to our team that helps? And so what I'm now getting into is how all of this actually, we're not at odds, we're actually just at corners. That helps us actually point to the same goal in the center.
Yeah, it's the target. Are the people you're hiring helping you hit the target? That's it. It doesn't matter what age they are. It doesn't matter what generation. And like I actively, when I hire people, I actively try to find people who are not like me, because it's how great companies are built, right? They find people.
That's absolutely true.
Where if you're a business leader and you're running a team, if you are not actively searching for people smarter than you or who look different than you, you're eliminating your breadth of experience and knowledge. Now, the challenge is when you actively do that, you really have to put on your leadership hat and find a way to navigate the differences and be that facilitator, which is why, if you remember a couple episodes ago, we went through the passive communication structure. Like all of this stuff, handling people's a pain in the rear end, but it's also the greatest benefit.
It's true. It's absolutely true. All right, I'm gonna build out the last piece of my visual here, which I'm loving. This is great. All right, I'm gonna try it. All right, so it reminds me of this. We'll call it a parable. I think it's a parable of. We'll do 4 since we got 4 generations here. 4 blind men encountering an elephant. Stay with me for a second. Four blind men encounter an elephant. It's almost like four blind men walk into a bar, but instead they walk into 4 blind men walk into an elephant. For fun, one's a boomer, one's Gen X, one's millennial, one's Gen Z. 4 generations walk into an elephant, and each of them now needs to 4 blind generations. I forget, did I say blind? 4 blind generations walk into an elephant, and each of them reports out on what is an elephant like. And we ask the first person, what is an elephant like? And the first person says, an elephant is like a tree trunk. Okay. Second person says, an elephant is like a rope. Third person says, an elephant is like a fan. It's got the ear. Elephant is like a fan. The fourth person says, An elephant is like a wall. Now, who's right?
I don't know. I'm just drawing pictures, but
You're drawing pictures of
those
an
are
elephant.
four
Yeah, good. Very nice.
four very different things.
That's appropriately sketchy.
It's the only way I go.
That's right. So who's right?
So
Who's right about the elephant? Tree trunk, a rope, a fan, and a wall. What is an elephant really like?
Well, can you maybe quickly just break down, like, do we know how each of them are?
Well, the tree trunk's holding the leg, the rope's holding the tail, the fan's holding the ears, and the wall, he walks right into the side of the thing, and I think he fell on his arse.
Okay, so we all got that. We got one, we got two, we got three, and we've got four. Right, is their body.
All right.
So for those of you keeping track out there, these are what the analogies mean, or metaphors. All right. So if we know that, essentially what we're saying is that they're defining features or components or small traits of the elephant, which means they're all right, and none of them are completely wrong. But yet they're not all wrong. None of them are completely right.
There you go. On their own, all of them is partly right. Together, they have a much better picture of the whole. Now, we left out some parts of the elephant, obviously, you get that. I think in the original version of this, it's 5, and the 5th guy's got the trunk, and he says an elephant's like a hose or something like that. But this is a very old tale, by the way. It's a very old parable. Let's put the generation TBD. Regardless, this is the value of the generation. So if we're debating our differences, I'm going to actually debate that there is a difference.
Is there?
I don't know. That's the point. Any of these generations could be saying any of these 4 different things, right? It's when I encounter and engage with. So if I'm going to finish myself out here, we're all pointing here, and unless we're having a dialogue on the periphery, unless we're intentionally connecting and having a shared value system and a shared communication language and a shared value purpose around what are we trying to do here? We're trying to identify what this thing is. And each of us is right and needs to be right, and collectively we get the most right.
Totally. Yeah. It's the whole idea that there is no one truth that is true when you're dealing with human beings. There's always multiple perspectives, yours, mine, and God's, aka Brian Omeg.
Yes, I agree.
On whose drawings are better, in which case he would say mine.
Of course he would, because he knows better. So listen, Brad, thanks again for the premise. I think if I'm going to answer, if there was a question, the premise was, what is the impact of these generational differences on, as we said, hiring, learning, and selling, in a sense? It sounds like we would do better to understand what is it about humans and the way that they go to work and learn and buy, because those universals are going to be more universal than generations. And in a sense, then we might find some more fundamental values and truths that aren't immediately obvious.
Very much so. Yeah. I think, when you think about, like, if you match me up with somebody who's exactly my age, there's going to be different needs either way. And so to me, when you talk about hiring and the perception of a boomer hiring a millennial and the differences between the two, it really makes it hard to understand why there's so much dissent or why there's so much frustration with it, when potentially, rather than boiling it down to the stereotype, if we look at the individual and what they can bring and we match them with the right learning, whatever that might be, then we're all of a sudden are building the right culture that will last the long time, which is why mentorship is such a big deal right now in building companies and structure.
Absolutely.
You got mentorship process and some other things, but those 2 things really help. So I don't know about you. I think this is something that Brad out there, and I already like Brad when I heard his name. So thank you, Brad. When Brad sent this in, I almost feel like, and if there are people out there who want to hear more about this, and specifically like a tactical thing, because this was very much, we were talking philosophical and theory a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I do think that we can boil this down even further into some tactical frameworks that people who are going through this either from a hiring standpoint or from a training and learning standpoint or from a selling standpoint, we could dive into this further over the next couple of weeks. So if you'd like that, drop it in the comments. I know a bunch of you have been commenting today, so I actually would like to acknowledge some of you, and Mr. Omig has been sending those my way. So we've got a whole bunch of people, including it looks like your mom was watching today, Michael.
Yeah,
so
she does. Hi, Mom.
I hope you were saying some nice things, but thank you to all of you who watched. And again, if you want to be on the show and talk about this, reach out to us too, because we're more than happy to discuss this. In fact, one of the things that I think would be really valuable is to get one of each of those 4 people discussing how they see this happening and then diving into maybe some communication around what is the best way. And that might actually help facilitate discussions inside of your company. So actually coming up with an idea right here on the spot, I think we should try and dive down that rabbit hole, because I think we've got at least, I think we can find all 4 of those people. So, so I think that's where we should go. So I love it. Unless we
now recruiting,
want to open this up and continue it
generational
longer.
representatives.
That's right.
If you would like to speak on behalf of
Sketchy Ideas,
15 years worth of people, come on.
It's a safe space. We promise. That's why we try to have fun about this stuff.
It's a warm virtual embrace for you.
That's right. That's right. So with that, I think we need to, before we sign off, we got to recognize our 2 sponsors. So I'm going to let you go first, Mr. Rampolla.
Absolutely, we should. With many thanks to Spirity. Spirity helps you overcome your obstacles. We work with business owners to help them grow and scale their businesses. And we work with HR leaders to help them grow and scale the talent inside their organization. If you are encountering challenges at work, differences that really could help you grow and scale, if you were able to resolve them, we would love to help support you with that. Spirity.
And our second sponsor today is Cream City Marketing. We help small and medium-sized businesses grow and scale marketing and sales automation, as well as implementing strategy that will do things like recruitment or selling to those millennials, or even building learning management systems for your teams inside. So we actually we've done projects in all 3 of these areas. So if you need help with that, you know where to find us. Go to creamcitymarketing.com and you can inquire there. But for those of you who stuck with us this long and watched our sketchy drawings, that's how we do it. Thank you for sticking around. We're going to be back here next week. I think we're going to go on a little bit of a deep dive into this whole thing over the next few weeks, especially going into the end of the year. And since there's some strategic planning happening, I know this is all part of what you guys are talking about anyway. So with that, thank you again for coming to Sketchy Ideas, the show where we discuss sketchy ideas. And remember, just because it's a sketchy idea doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. I'm Brad James.
And I'm Michael Rampolla.
And we'll see you next time.